To be followed by Gordon Lyndhurst. Ms Hockey, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. It's not an unreasonable aspiration to want work that is fair and for such work to be available to everyone, no matter their background or circumstance. Fair opportunities can break down labour market inequality, it improves people's life chances, creates opportunities for social mobility and helps create a more equitable, inclusive and cohesive society. And although the Scottish Government has placed fair work and inclusive growth at the heart of its economic strategy, true fairness in the workplace is yet to be realised. Presiding Officer, prior to becoming an MSP, I was a divisional convener for Unison, and it was my responsibility and indeed my pleasure to stand up against injustice and inequality in the workplace. And at this point, I'd like to refer members to my register of interests as I remain a member of that trade union. Since my election, I've continued to champion workers' rights. However, it's incredibly frustrating that the bulk of these powers are at the behest of a Tory government. This is the party of employment tribunal fees, the party of the pernicious Trade Union Act and the party of Brexit. And there are few areas in which Brexit has more potential to impact upon than that of workers' rights. Such protections like the outlawing of discrimination for part-time and fixed-term workers, the right to rest breaks and paid holidays, and leave for working parents all derive from EU directives. Presiding Officer, the Fair Work Convention defines fair work through 5 different dimensions: effective voice, opportunity, security, fulfilment and respect. And each of these aspects are essential, not only for the employee, but for society and for the employer themselves. However, too often the opportunity and respect of minority and underrepresented groups is disregarded. For women, it remains an outrage that in the UK, for every pound a man earns, a woman takes home 81 pence. For our ethnic minority population, it's scandalous that last year's employment rate in Scotland was 74% for white people, but only 58% for BAME people. And also for our younger population, it's shameful that by the end of this month, workers aged 25 or over will be entitled to £7.83 per hour, whilst for under 18s it's £4.20, and for apprentices, a pitiful £3.70. If we're serious about treating people fairly at work, then we must ensure that they are paid fairly for that work too. Presiding Officer, over the last few months, both at Parliament and in the media, we've heard of outrageous practices undertaken by unscrupulous employers. Indeed, as we debated in January, my SNP colleague Stuart MacDonald MP sought to introduce a bill to the UK Parliament to outlaw unpaid trial shifts. The UK Government had the opportunity to show fairness and allowed the bill to proceed on Friday, but sadly it was talked out. If Stuart MacDonald's bill were to have become law, it would have ensured that firms like Mubu would no longer legally be permitted to ask trainees to work a full 40 hours for no pay and no guarantee of a job at the end of their trial period. Other exploitative practices evidenced recently occurred over the period of extreme weather earlier this month. Companies like William Hill forced my constituent to travel to work, despite the red weather warnings being in place, or to face losing a day's pay. It's absolutely disgraceful that employers can compel people to work at times when the weather is deemed to be a threat to life solely to put profits before people. I welcome the agreement between the Scottish Government and the STUC, who have announced that they will develop a Fair Work Charter focusing on the treatment of workers affected by such emergencies. And the Charter will include a recognition that workers need an effective voice through a union to develop appropriate, flexible and fair approaches, and it will highlight examples of employers and unions working flexibly and constructively. Presiding Officer, through the Government's continual work with our trade union partners and the actions this Government's taken, it is clear that they are committed to ensuring people are valued, rewarded and safe at their work with equal opportunity to progress and succeed. Indeed, through the Fair Work Convention and Fair Work Framework, the promotion of the Scottish Living Wage Accreditation Initiative and the creation of the Scottish Business Pledge, the Scottish Government are taking steps where possible to progress their Fair Work strategy. However, it is only by having full powers over business tax, employment law, the minimum wage, health and safety and welfare that we will be better placed to create good quality jobs, grow the economy and lift people out of poverty. Labour's amendment spoke of the hypocrisy of the Scottish Government. However, the hypocrites today here are the Labour Party. If they truly think that they are the party of the workers, then they should back SNP calls for employment law to be devolved to this Parliament, and in order to make Scotland's fair work and ambition a reality.
Thank you. I call Gordon Lynn.